Welcome to Raising Joyful and Resilient Black Children. We're thrilled to kick off season 3, bringing you essential conversations about parenting, family empowerment, and social justice. Our mission is to share real tools, culturally grounded wisdom, and evidence-based practices that support Black families at every stage of life.
Today, we are honored to welcome Brad Edwards, a visionary leader whose work with the Dear Fathers platform is transforming fatherhood in our communities. Brad's groundbreaking programs, Dads to Doulas and Fearless Fathers 101, address critical issues from reducing high infant mortality rate among Black babies to building a robust support network for Black dads.
Brad, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Wonderful, wonderful. So to start, we're so excited you're here. Could you tell us a bit about your personal journey and what inspired you to get involved with the Dear Fathers platform?
Yeah. So my personal journey, I was an expectant father in 2017, and we lost those babies. They were stillborns. And, coming into fatherhood again in 2020, the platform Dear Fathers started in September of 2019 by two good friends of mine, Lamar Johnson and Jesse Alex. And really, I was so just excited and engulfed in my fatherhood journey and about to become a father and all that good stuff, that when I was seeing the type of content that they were posting from the site, I'm a big believer in, positive propaganda and media as it relates to Black men, Black families as a whole. One of my favorite quotes from Huey P. Newton is, I don't expect the white media to put out positive Black images, right? So we have to do that ourselves. So when I was seeing it, I'm reposting everything. I'm sharing it because I feel like everyone needed to see this, right? And understand that this is our true narrative, now what the media puts out about us. So, Lamar came to me knowing that I did a lot of stuff in community within the St. Louis area and asked me, hey, man, would you be a part of this and help us build out some programming, which we started with the mental health initiative, Straight Mental, in May of 2020. And, it really transitioned right into me becoming a father. Like, I literally hosted the first Straight Mental call on May 17th. We had 50 guys from all over the country be a part of this mental health call. And then I went to the hospital for my daughter to be born. So Dear Fathers has literally been a part of my life in every step of the way as I become a father and been a father.
Wow. That's a lot of daddying.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to hear. And we're so sorry to hear about your first two children. So you were having twins initially, it sounds like.
Yeah, they were on the way in 2017. They would have been here in 2018.
Okay. All right. Blessings to you. And now you have a rainbow baby, as they call it. Is it?
Yeah. I have two. I have a 4, soon to be 5-year-old, and then a 3-year-old boy.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Well, congratulations on your 2. And wow, just it seems, as you said, like your journey is parallel with the evolution of the programming.
Mm-hmm. And so, Brad, before we discuss your signature programs, tell the audience more about the Dear Fathers platform. Like, what is its core mission and how does it serve as a hub for empowering Black fathers and their families?
Yeah, so at its core, Dear Fathers is the premier platform of telling stories of Black fathers, literally from all angles. So all of our storytelling series, our content, our podcast, everything is centered around Black fatherhood. So we have, different storytelling series. Dads and Deliveries is one of my favorites, where Black men have the opportunity to tell their story of what that looked like in the labor delivery room from their POV, from their lens, right? And I think that's kind of where a lot of this stuff began, about us, focusing on the paternal side of the situation, because a lot of men don't get opportunity to tell their story or share with their friends what that looked like for them. So a lot of times we go into that blind. And then, Fearless Fathers, men get a chance, opportunity to talk about, what their father meant for them and what fatherhood looks like for them. Our Daughter's Memoirs is also one of my favorites, gives Black women an opportunity to speak to what their father's presence did or what their lack of did. And again, I say it from all angles, right? So we want to focus on the good, the bad, and the middle, right? So, as Black men, us being able to have a platform or a space for us to talk about shared experiences, that's truly powerful. We have a celebrity podcast where we've had last season Shaquille O'Neal, Mookie Betts, Pusha T. We've had, plethora of athletes and entertainers, and it allows them an opportunity to come on and really talk about what matters to them most. And that's their family. That's their children. That's the reason why they get up at 4:00 in the morning and go shoot 1,000 jump shots. That's why they're, getting into the method acting and going to kill it on the big screen. But we're not talking about how many tickets you sold that first weekend or, how many points you scored this season. It's literally about, what really matters to you and what's your why, and that's the family. So, it is core. Dear Fathers is a place that provides community and safe space for Black men.
I love that. That's powerful. And so let's dive into one of your signature programs, Brad. Let's talk about Dads to Doulas. So this initiative directly addresses the high infant mortality rate among Black babies. And so talk a little bit about how this program works and what it offers to expectant fathers.
Yeah, so this is a 6-week course, and it's presented in a hybrid format. And it gives high-level doula training to Black men, Black expectant fathers. And we literally start from week 1 is the history of gynecology. So the men are going to understand exactly why this has been a historic and systemic situation and issue. And that really sets a base level of understanding so they could know, okay, this is not something that just came up recently. This is something that has existed since, all of this has existed in this country. We go over midwives and they understand why midwives and doulas have always been a part of our culture and why they have been necessary. We go into, the hormonal and the physical changes, and it's always interesting in that particular portion because men are like, oh, okay, we just got out of our first trimester, and then they're learning something of why their partner may have been this way or, felt this way. Then like, oh, okay, that all ties together, right? So you get a lot of buy-ins like, okay, I saw that or recognize that or we're currently dealing with that. And everything just kind of goes on. So, partner advocacy, which is one of my favorite parts because now they're learning how to be assertive and really take charge without, being seen as aggressive and, this angry Black man is that they would like to paint us out to be in these hospital systems so that you can make your point without being kicked out of the room. Now you don't have any voice at all, right? The postpartum period is a huge part of what we speak about as well. Just last night, we held our first quarterly a virtual workshop that spoke to perinatal mood disorder. And that was it was amazing to see how many of these brothers had felt this before, but didn't know what to call it or had felt it and didn't know how to express themselves. Once one guy got to talking, they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Or that was my story. Or this, this is what I'm dealing with my partner. How do I help her through this situation, right? So, once these men understand the risk and the numbers and what that looks like and why this is important for them to not only come in and be fully engaged in, but for them to really take this course seriously. So there's homework, there's discussion boards. We have a portion of it where we're talking about physical health of the man and them understanding like you play a lot of parts in this whole situation. So a lot of miscarriages come because of the sperm health. Right. So the men coming into the course, you have to have recently had blood work and the physical done, or you have to have an appointment to have that done by that 6-week course ending for you to receive your certificate. So just them understanding this education and this knowledge goes a long way. And, we noticed from cohort 1 to cohort 2, these guys are telling their fraternity brothers, they're telling their cousins, they're telling their friends. So now these seeds that we're planting, they're starting to grow in other places, right? So this community is becoming stronger and they're coming together because of this very important subject matter.
And so, Brad, how do you recruit the dads? What does that look like in terms of getting them to participate in the 6-week program?
I can't say that there's been too much of an intentional recruitment process. We've been blessed in the way that because of the media publications, it's really been all organic growth.
Oh, wow.
Once, the community has seen this, and honestly, we had no expectations, but once the men see this, their partners see it and share it with them, it's amazing. If you give a Black man an assignment and help him understand why this is pivotal to the safety of his family, you don't have to do much to recruit them. They're going to come and show up.
I love that.
Yeah. So I want to follow up on that before we dive into a few things about dads to doulas. So you said that they have to be educated. They're learning about the hormonal process. They have to have health check and wellness. So how do you recruit or how do you engage experts, or do you engage experts to share that information? Yeah, that's my first question. How do you help to share that information in a way that's digestible for fathers? Because certainly as a mother, typically that's the kind of information that's shared with mothers, right? So who are the experts? Who's in the room to help you share the information out to the fathers and make sure that they're well educated to advocate for their families?
So let's start there. So I'm not the instructor on this course, right? So Kyra Betts, one of my very good friends, she literally wrote this curriculum from scratch. She's a full spectrum doula. She's had over 150 clients. So, she's well versed. She's been a trainer in the medical system. She's seen it all from both angles. So through her experience, like when we do go through scenarios, these are all real scenarios that she's seen in her clients and her births. We have a co-facilitator in Charity Bean, who is a doula as well as a student midwife. And she has over 100 births under her belt as a doula as well. So you have all of this lived experiences that are teaching this course. So Kyra has done an amazing job of making this material something that is interesting and digestible for these men, to where it's a 2-hour course. Most times by the 2.5-hour mark, I'm like, hey guys, we got to wrap this up, because they're still wanting to learn and have these conversations and all that kind of stuff. So, again, it's been a blessing, but it's all Kyra's doing it and making this material what it is.
So could I jump in and say something? Now, Brad, I'm in St. Louis.
I did know that.
I am at WashU.
Oh, okay.
So Kyra is coming into, I know this is the connection, y'all. I just met her. Okay. And she's like amazing, because she's starting a PhD program here.
Yes.
So I want to give her a shout out, and Dr. Ty Howard.
Man, Dr. Ty has been amazing.
Give her a shout out. Okay. I just wanted to say that. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. I love the connection.
That's that research to practice connection that we like to have here on
Wait a minute. I know that person.
Black children. Absolutely. We try to undergird what's good for the community with the evidence in the practice and the research. Perfect example right here. And so thanks, Brad, and thanks, Sheretta, for sharing that. So when we talk about doulas, certainly for me, I had a doula when I had my daughter. I think of women. So let's talk about dads and doulas and how it's making a real impact, not just in the education as we talked about, but in shifting how our community supports Black families, right? From pregnancy through infancy. So not just supporting the baby or the mother, but supporting Black families. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah. So one thing I always want to make clear is, we're not training men to be doulas in the traditional sense. So, I'm not expecting a man to go out and be the neighborhood doula for other families and that kind of thing. But one thing I've learned through this process is, when companies or systems are going out and they're training doulas within the communities that they should be serving oftentimes can't afford to pay for the doula services, right? So that training and that education leaves that community and goes out to communities that can afford them. So with us training men on a doula level, these are men that are not going anywhere. They're within the community, right? They're, community fathers. One brother we had in the last cohort, he was 55 years old. He's not expecting kids. But because he reaches young Black men and women, he's able to use the things that he's learning and help, pour that into them, right? So this is just a non-traditional way to make sure that this education stays within the community and spreads in that way. So while this man may not go out and participate in another birth, he's very prepared for his own situation, and he's going to be able to spread the education to his brothers, cousins, whoever that is.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. That definitely makes sense. And it's good to hear that. So you may not necessarily be doulas in the traditional sense, but you are doulas in the sense that you are advocating, informing, educating, and being part of the support system for the community. So I do want to ask a related question before we jump on, and that is, where did Black fathers go to get support in the birthing process before dads to doulas?
Valerie, that's a great question. And I'll go back to my own personal story, right? In 2020, me and Kyra, we hosted 2 virtual workshops to educate Black women on doulas and midwives. And because of how confident I felt in all the information she gave me, I felt like this was something that everybody needed to know if they didn't know about it, right? So my partner at the time, she did not believe in having a doula. She was very pretty much against it. And, she's in medicine. So she's like, I trust the doctors, right? That didn't stop me from getting my education from Kyra. So when we were in the actual delivery room, she was like, hey, can you create a group chat with Kyra? Because I know I have some questions. And Kyra was able to show up for us in that way. When I was looking for spaces that could support me going into that, I didn't see any. So I'm not going to say that they don't exist, but I didn't have success finding it. And with us creating this and the reaction and the way that it's being embraced, I don't know if anything that truly exists that, does this in such a culturally affirming way like we do it in this course.
Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. And about your story, which is probably reflective, as you said, in the popularity of the programs and experience that many Black men have had, because we do know the mortality rates for Black women and infants. So thank you. Right. And so it's likely that if the programs did exist, they were few and far between or hard to find. So love that you have this elevated and pronounced presence where men and fathers, Black fathers specifically, can find out how to be a part of the birthing process, not just the creation of these babies.
Right.
Yeah. So let's talk about Fearless Fathers 101. And so a program about community guidance and lifelong support. Tell me more about what fathers can expect from this comprehensive course.
Yeah. So with Fearless Fathers 101, there's no guide, there's no script to being a father, right? So we try to provide a foundation of what, things could look like, should look like, maybe look like. But, as long as we're moving in the right path, we're going to figure it out along the way. So, with Fearless Fathers, it's literally guys coming together to learn together. I mean, I tell people all the time, like, when people applaud me, like, oh man, you're this kind of father. And how do you know how to do X, Y, and Z? I don't know how to do this because I just, figured it out on my own. No, I'm really, truly the sum of the men that, I'm around, the fathers that I'm around. I picked up so much from them, whether it's guys in Fearless Fathers 101, if it's my friends I talk to daily, like none of this because of me, it's because of the environment and the community I've kept. So that's truly what Fearless Fathers 101 is us continue to empower and encourage one another, because being a father is not easy. It's like being a mom is not easy, right? And we're really trying to figure this out day by day. I tell guys all the time, like, allow yourself grace. Like, if you're a first-time father, that's the first time that you're going to be the father of a 1-month-old, of a 6-month-old, of a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, whatever it is, and you're figuring this out. So, that's what we try to provide in, Fearless Fathers 101.
That sounds really good. Do you ever connect with centers, some of the research centers or practice and advocacy centers like the National Center on Families and Fathers or National Center on Black Child Development Institute? Have you connected with either of them, where we have scholars and others who are doing that work as well, or amplifying the needs and the work of the community?
No, as of right now, we have not. That's something that we're going to get into on the back half of this year. But like I said, we've really been figuring this out as we've been going along. And I mean, it's really been working just organically. Like, we've been fortunate to partner with great fatherhood organizations all over the country. We do our Dear Fathers Nights, whether it's in DC, Atlanta, Dallas, whatever the case is, guys that are doing that are partnering with us. So, it's brought to our space, right? So, the collaborative efforts that are within the fatherhood space have, been truly amazing.
Yes, it sounds like it. It reminds me of the conversation we had with our guests about library dads, right? So it sounds like it's the education and the community.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got excited. I truly love what they're like. That to me is so dope.
Very dope.
Very dope. And just can bear long-lasting relationship. The people who live right there. So it's the knowledge. It sounds like the advocacy, but also the bonding, like a space to bond. So appreciative of that. And what I love about the programs is that they are acknowledging the effective parenting isn't just about information, right? It's about support, community, and healing. So, I do love that Dear Fathers addresses not only health concerns, but also the long-term well-being of families. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so for our audience, for the folks that's listening, in terms of like practical guidance, can you provide like some tips or share additional resources for Black fathers looking to raise joyful and resilient Black children? Like, what advice would you offer based on your experiences and the work that you do? Or that you're learning how, we all learning, right? And so can you provide any tips? Yeah.
Now, Sheretta, I always say that I was literally forged by the fire. Upon bringing my daughter home, her mother had to return to the hospital due to some medical issues. And I had literally never changed a diaper in my life prior to that time. And I had never, made a bottle of formula or even been by myself with a newborn, let alone, a baby, newborn, whatever. And I had to figure it out really, really fast. And honestly, I think that was the best thing for me, because being able to figure that out and being able to navigate that time and that space showed and told me that I can do literally anything when it comes to my children. And that's what I try to tell guys. Like, it's going to seem daunting. It's going to seem like the heaviest lift sometimes. It's going to seem like it's scary and you might not necessarily know how to do it or what to do. But man, if you love your children and you truly want to do it, you'll figure it out. It'll get done. The best advice, like I said earlier, allow yourself grace. Understand that you're not going to get it right all the time. Sometimes we don't even know what get it right means, depending on the situation, right? So, just be gracious not only with yourself, with the partner, because she's figuring it out too. So, I feel like as long as we can communicate and we know that we're moving in the best interest of the child and keeping the main thing, which is them, we can all navigate and work together. And the other thing is lean on your community, no matter what it is you're going through. I call my friends all the time, like, bro, your potty training was killing me not too long ago. So I'm like, man, my daughter will not poop on the pot to save her life. And I was getting concerned. I called one of my buddies and he gave me some tips and it worked. So, don't sit in a silo. And oftentimes as Black men, we do that. And we want to, take on all of these things by ourselves, thinking that we can't be vulnerable or we can't call on a buddy or anyone within our community to help us out. But like, man, you're doing yourself a disservice. Make that phone call, ask that question, share what's going on. Because 9 times out of 10, the brother you talk to every day may be going through the same thing. And y'all sitting here talking to each other about the playoffs and LeBron and everything else, but you're not talking about the thing that truly keeps you up sometimes at night. You guys can help each other through.
That's so true. So true. So that makes me ask 2 questions. Like you say, lean on your community, talk to other men who are fathers, maybe pop-ups as well. And you said, you had the experience when, you were trial by fire. You had to figure it out. So I'm wondering, and you said, give yourself grace, give your partner grace. So, so important. And we don't have enough. We're not giving the opportunity to have grace within our community often enough, right? So giving each other grace is a good place to start. And that makes me wonder, is there a spiritual base for you that helped you to move in this way? How do you move and what do you call on in addition to the members of your community?
Yeah, Valerie, I found myself praying quite a lot during the pandemic. And I think the simplest prayer for me that truly helped me allow myself grace and really grow on the day going to the next day was simply, God, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be a better person tomorrow than I was today. And that simple prayer,
awesome.
I had the opportunity to really kind of reflect on, okay, what happened today? Like I fell short. What can I have improved upon? And I left it in that day and just focused on being better the next day.
Awesome. And so I do want to say, because I hear you saying grace and I'm like, what do you call on? And we call on our friends and families in our other spaces. So thank you for sharing that. And so simple, but enough to give our listeners pause to call on all of the members of their community, whether they're spiritual or practical people, activities, resources, or faith-based, to just really love on themselves and their children. So when we care for ourselves, we can certainly do a better job of caring for our children. So thank you, Brad, for just sharing. What did this feel like to go through as you're building these magnificent programs? Thank you so much. Related to what Sheretta asked you before we close, would you share a success story or a moment from your work that really highlights the impact of these initiatives with your members or your followers?
There's a lot. And I think because, I'm in it every day, I don't really take the time to really sit with them when it happens. So I'm going to share with you a text that I received last night after the virtual space. And this is how I know the universe and God just kind of like, works like it's supposed to. I called this brother. I've known him a very long time. And for whatever reason, he was on my mind last Thursday. And I called him that morning. Hey, bro, what's going on? How you doing? What's happening? And they are 8 months postpartum. And he was kind of sharing me a situation that had him a little concerned as it relates to his partner and some postpartum situation. I'm like, man, actually we have a workshop next week on perinatal mood disorders of like, I'm shared the link. Hey, you should come out if you get the opportunity to. And I forgot about it. He came and sat through the session last night and he texted me afterwards and I'll share the text. Yo, bro, that was amazing to be there. The insight, the raw emotion from the fellas was eye-opening. And it showed me that I'm not tripping for having my random intrusive thoughts. Thank you for the invite, bro. I'm better after today. And
that's
awesome. So beautiful.
For me, guys to come in and understand that they're not alone in whatever it is they're feeling and be able to, feel that sense of community with strangers. That's what this is all about.
That is truly an inspiring and amazing story. Thank you for sharing, Brad. Thank you for extending the invitation to him. And thank you just for your insights and for just your unwavering dedication to uplifting Black families, uplifting Black fathers through the Dear Fathers platform. We are just so indebted to you and excited for the work that you're doing on behalf of fathers, children, and families in the Black community.
Absolutely.
So I have a few more questions. I'm always a few more questions, mommy, and a few more questions, co-host. Not enough, right. Yeah, two. But these are good questions.
Not a
They're
problem.
all good questions. So the one of two questions is, we're talking about health and well-being. We're talking about community. So what are some healthy tips you give around nutrition or physical activity to keep everyone well? There's postpartum, there's the experience, there's the fatigue. We haven't even talked about the lack of sleep, but we know that's part of this whole process. So do you have any recommendations or tips or trying to keep healthy in terms of eating or physical activity for our fathers, our mothers during this time?
Yeah. So with me having our baby during COVID, I couldn't get to the gym, right? So I found a lot.
I know that feeling.
So I found a lot of peace in going outside and walking. So I was walking 7-8 miles a day. And that's something 5 years later that, I stay true to. So, if you want to get out, just, read a book, whatever, get out, get some sun, go take a couple miles of a walk and just get moving. As far as nutrition, if I could leave these sweets alone, I'd be a little bit better off. But I've definitely been, trying to make a change and, more fruit. I just started intermittent fasting that I've noticed that the times I thought I was hungry, I was just bored and I really wasn't hungry. So that's been a great shift for me as well.
That's awesome. So the one I borrow from our guest, the free 99 activity is walking, right? So simple walking, which can clear your mind and help reduce your stress, extend your life, all of the things. You seem like you're primed for joining a Girl Trek family community walk, where Girl Trek invites the family members along with the mothers and the daughters and sisters to come along. So that's what it sounds like to me. And you're up to 7 to 8 miles. So that is a test. And that's an invitation, it sounds like, for our listeners to get out and do some walking. And many of us can step away from the sweet treats and bite into an apple, a pear, a watermelon, a berry, something else. So thanks for sharing that.
Now, Brad, for people who want to get involved or who want to learn more, how can our listeners find additional information about your programs?
And so if you visit our website, dearfathers.com, click on Doulas and Doulas. If you register for updates, you'll receive everything that you need for the upcoming cohort, as well as all of our virtual workshops that we'll be hosting. Follow us on Instagram at dear.fathers, or you can follow me at brad.m.edwards, or email me at brad@dearfathers.com. Whatever information, I'm always available and, willing to help however.
Awesome. Brad, can you repeat them one more time for our listeners who are saying, where can I find them again?
So our website is dearfathers.com, and go under the Doulas and Doulas tab. Our Instagram is dear.fathers. And you can email me at brad@dearfathers.com.
Awesome. Thank you, Brad. And then finally, we like the community. We like just understanding the whole birthing process, the postpartum process. What is your joy quotient? What's your joy recommendation for our listeners? What's one thing that you want our listeners to walk away from and say, this is a joyful thing that I do or appreciate, that really elevates, that joyful feeling and gives us a chance to really just live in the joy. What would you tell our parents that they could do with their children or on behalf of their children to have that joy quotient elevated?
Man, that is such a great question. With my kids, they have my rhythm, unfortunately. So the dancing doesn't look the greatest, but every Friday that we're together, we do pizza, movies, and we have a little dance party, a little dance night. And, just seeing their little faces light up, knowing that, they can move around with daddy, I'm going to be silly with them and all that kind of stuff. Just leaning into whatever it is that they like to do. Just making sure that they're happy is honestly it for me. So whatever it is that your child is into,
yes,
just do it with them.
Yes, that sounds great. And I'm chuckling because my co-host knows I always say, be safe, dance, laugh every day. And really, right. My daughter lost her rhythm. So that's how we started having Friday night old school dance parties. We were like, we got to get this back. Mm-hmm. So we have dance parties on Fridays as well. I'm like, we've got to harness the joy. And now she's in formal dance classes and she's always trying to teach me. But yeah, I agree. Whatever your children enjoy, and dancing is also movement that's healthy for you physically and, mentally. So we definitely, I will always say, be safe, whatever that means to you, laugh and dance every day. So I love the dance parties. We might, be stingy on the pizza, but I love that. Thank you again, Brad, for joining us today and for all the work you do to transform fatherhood, particularly in the Black community and community wellness. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And thank you again. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to Raising Joyful and Resilient Black Children. We hope today's conversation inspires you to support and engage in initiatives that foster strength, resilience, and joy within our families.
Absolutely. Until next time, stay joyful, stay resilient, and keep empowering our future generations.